So we're now at the full moon eclipse, which will peak around midnight on the west coast, which is 3 a.m. on the east coast. And this is happening near the 24th degree of Virgo and Pisces, 23 3/4 or so. And so in your own chart, you look for planets in that region of Virgo or Pisces, as well as Gemini and Sagittarius. That is what would be most affected in terms of a full moon and an eclipse that can be all at once challenging, but also potentially awakening because of the dynamism of the full moon. Now, you probably remember from prior videos that I talked about the effect on the chart of the orange degenerate, as well as the other degenerate, the one that is trying to slash and burn through the federal government. And in the case of Musk, it actually was a stronger effect in February because his Venus is in the 19 plus range of Gemini, so it qualifies in that it's close enough, for it to be affected. But at least the theory was that it would abate going into March, the effect that is, because the full moon is in later degrees, number one, and number two would be that the Saturn has also moved forward from those degrees. However, you can see that he's still experiencing a lot of those effects, in that you could say in February he was creating the problem, he was becoming less and less popular, things were becoming more known and disliked. And so as we moved into March, Tesla stock went way down, to the point where his White House buddy was actually, as he's prone to do, was hawking his cars, encouraging people to buy them, and even posting some of those crazy tweets where he says, monumentally stupid things like that he's going to find a way to punish people who don't want to buy Tesla cars, as though that's something that you can actually do. But that's the way he is. Nothing new. You've seen this before many times. Only thing I can say is don't let it get to you. In any case, so right now, degrees where it's in theory at least, are affecting the president more and the co-president less. But from what we've seen, we could also conclude that the February period did a lot of damage to the other guy, to the SpaceX guy, the Tesla guy, because of the way he was behaving. And this can happen in astrology. You get a difficult Saturn transit, literally a difficult transit from any planet, and you hope that while it's happening, maybe it doesn't feel so well, but then it moves and you can feel better. That's very often what happens. But then there are cases where the transit, the period, leaves lasting damage, which I have to be honest, I hope it did. I hope it does. Right? Because, for one thing, as you remember me saying as well, this guy does have better energy as we go toward later in the spring and especially the summer, because where Saturn is very difficult, Jupiter is very helpful. And being a Cancer with Cancer rising, Mercury in Cancer, Jupiter is going through there, and Jupiter has a way of helping you out, holding you up, improving your situation. And so it's entirely possible that's what happens in the, let's call it the relatively near-term future. On the other hand, if the damage that he started to create for himself in February and now is experiencing as a result, if it's lasting enough, it can mean that he would be completely out of there, and therefore he would experience that Jupiter cycle in some other way. Personally, I doubt it. I have a feeling that what is more likely to happen is that he will adjust his theories, his practices, and so on, and navigate accordingly. And at least in a sense, to the extent that you want to be positive at all about these people, and it's hard, I understand that. Nevertheless, if he's kept in check and he is genuinely finding things that can be improved, that wouldn't be an altogether bad thing. Problem is that I doubt that would be the case, just given the way he is. He's very similar, to the orange menace, birds of a feather flock together, and these are not good people, plain and simple. So that's just the bottom line on that. Meanwhile, the other guy, the orange man himself, he is in direct line of this full moon situation, which is acting as a trigger to where the Saturn is, because Saturn is in that range of Pisces, making the square to his sun and moon, and hence all the dangers that I talked about, particularly to health and well-being, because of the house where it's transiting in. But like I said, I think in the last one or the one before that, that same house is also associated with taxes, levies, and therefore tariffs. And this is the self-created mess that he's living through right now, because he's literally tanking the economy all by himself, at minimum by creating uncertainty, since he puts on the tariff, takes it out, when he realizes that the market is reacting unfavorably. And so that kind of haphazard confusion leads to these kinds of results. But he also has better cycles as we move into next month, the month after that. That's the Jupiter period in his chart. And so we have to expect that things will get better for him. As to how and why, I don't totally know yet. This is just all the way that Jupiter tends to work, and especially in his case, he is notorious for navigating through situations that are really complicated when the Jupiter comes in to help. However, in his case, when Jupiter switches signs, which it does in late May, it is not nearly as helpful. In fact, it's not helpful at all, really, when it goes into Cancer. In the case of Musk it is, but in his case it's not. That period, starting in late May, then becomes this ever-increasing problem, because the Jupiter, in a sense, joins the parade of planets that are hard on him. Saturn is one, for sure. Uranus also, because Uranus is making squares. Pluto is irritating. Neptune, until it gets out of Pisces, which it doesn't until the spring of 26, is a major problem. So his situation gets worse. And I continue to think that the most likely outcome we will see here, absent something really major, like, for example, it is possible that he could just get rid of Musk in the next days, weeks, whatever. It's possible. I doubt it, just because of the money connection they have and what Musk holds over him in that sense. So it may take a while longer for that to happen, in which case then we've got this pattern where the spring, meaning right now, is super dicey, and it is doing damage, obviously, to them. Of course, unfortunately, it's doing it to us as well, because when you do what he's doing, hurting, the U.S. Relationships, alliances with different countries, that's going to take time to repair. But without looking at that for now and just focusing on them, the spring, i.e. now, is complicated, difficult, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it happen. Then late spring into summer gets easier, but then it goes the other way again. and becomes complicated again. And especially as we go into next year, it becomes tremendously complicated. In that case, really graphically for Musk first, because Saturn, as it starts to make its way into Aries, enters his 10th sign, squares the sun. It's a big problem in terms of life catching up to him. But Trump is right there as well, because his Mercury is at 9 degrees Cancer, so same idea. I mean, Saturn will cross through there, and it's not good at all. So, in the meantime, all I can say is we have to continue to hang in there, and as I've brought up a number of times, of course it's good if the situation improves, but I always say to people now, assume the worst. Assume that you might have to deal with this guy or this group for the whole 4 years, but continue to remain centered, focused, and calm. In fact, if all Democrats do this, it's almost like a magical, mysterious unification energy that affects everyone and pretty much guarantees that we can stop these guys, through the midterms and through the next election. But if people panic, get discouraged, and especially give up on voting, well, then that won't be good. So this is the bottom line. And you could also say, in a way, it's the best revenge you can take on this horrible behavior we're being subjected to somehow get around letting it affect us. Because really, in a lot of ways, these bullies, that's what they want. They want to upset people. It's how you've probably heard, commented by several people, that it's almost like the cruelty is the point. But we're in control of our own mind and body, and this indeed may be the secret power, or the secret reason that this may be happening on a broad scale is to help people find that inner power in themselves, which of course when you do, you carry it forth forever into the future, and therefore becomes a great asset to you.